Amanda. Amanda probably thought a night of camping, weed hunting, and tent was going to be her college highlight reel. Instead, it became her obituary. While Richie was too distracted to notice, Amanda's mood soured when she heard rustling outside. Convinced Wade was being the world's creepiest voyeur, she shut things down until Richie went to check.
I heard something. Stop it.
Bad call. Alone in the tent, Amanda was greeted not by Wade, but by Jason Voorhees. He, ever the innovator in outdoor cooking, stuffed her into her sleeping bag, zipped it shut, and hung it over the campfire like she was tonight's s'more. Her muffled screams filled the night as the flames roasted her alive, the nylon turning into her own personal oven. By the time Richie stumbled back, he managed to step straight into a bear trap. Immobilized and screaming, he got front row seats to his girlfriend's fiery demise, watching as Amanda quite literally went up in smoke. Jason didn't just kill her, he served her well done. Shelby B was a middle-aged short-order cook, husband to Joey B and father to Ward. He spent his days flipping burgers at Joey B's diner, until Jason Voorhees, whose soul now resided in the body of Robert Campbell, decided to turn up for the night shift. When Stephen Freeman and Jessica Kimball burst into the diner screaming bloody murder, Joey handed Shelby a gun like it was just another tool from the kitchen. Shelby opened fire, but the bullets might as well have been spitballs. Jason, unimpressed, decided it was time for some fast food irony. He grabbed Shelby and shoved his head straight into the deep fryer. In seconds, the cook became the cooked, his face bubbling like the fries he probably served every day. Turns out the diner's special that night was Shelby. Ali. When the bikers roll up to Higgins Haven, Ali steps into the barn and immediately stumbles on Loco's corpse. Before he can process that little nightmare, Jason drops from the rafters like a homicidal cat. Ali grabs a machete and actually manages to land a couple of hits. A rare accomplishment. But Jason quickly reminds him this isn't a fair fight. A heavy wrench to the skull puts Ali down fast. Hours later, as Chris Higgins is cornered in the barn, Ali staggers back into the scene. Bloodied, broken, but somehow still standing. He throws himself at Jason with one last surge of adrenaline, proving you really can't keep a biker down for long. Jason makes short work of him. One swing takes off Ali's hand and a flurry of machete blows finishes the job. Ali's doomed comeback doesn't save him, but it buys Chris the crucial seconds she needs to grab an axe, setting up the final bloody showdown. Rick Bombay. Rick had been endlessly patient with Chris's friends, even after Shelley managed to return his beloved Volkswagen Beetle with a busted windshield, because nothing says sorry like handing over a couple of bucks for major property damage. Rick threatened to leave, but Chris talked him down. Later that night, she finally confessed the real reason she'd come back. A past run-in with a deformed man who nearly killed her. Rick brushed it off, proving he'd clearly never seen a horror movie in his life. Not long after, while hanging around the barn, Rick found out the hard way that her story wasn't just trauma-induced campfire talk. Jason Voorhees grabbed him from behind and crushed his skull with ease. The pressure built until Rick's eye literally popped out. Rick's head may have been flattened, but at least he got to be part of the franchise's most eye-catching moment. Adrian Thomas Hart. Adrian was a medical scientist aboard the Grendel, tasked with examining Jason Voorhees after his cryogenic body was recovered in the 25th century. While working alone in the lab, she removed one of Jason's eyes with forceps and froze it in liquid nitrogen for later study. She then attempted to cut away his hockey mask, which had fused to his face, but after briefly seeing his deformed features, she placed it back on out of a faint sense of pity. As she turned her attention to analyzing the samples she had collected, Jason began to stir on the table. Adrian dismissed the noises as ice shifting from his frozen body and continued her work. Moments later, Jason rose and attacked her, slamming her against the wall and dragging her violently around the lab. Adrian screamed for help, but her colleague Waylander remained unaware. In her final moments, Jason forced Adrian's head into a nearby vat of liquid nitrogen, instantly freezing her face solid. He then shattered it against the counter, killing her. Sarah Parkington. Sarah joined her friends at the Crystal Lake getaway house, where she quickly grew close to Doug. That night, the two slipped away from the chaos downstairs and shared a moment in the shower. Unaware Jason Voorhees was already busy turning their friends into corpses. Afterwards, Sarah left to get dressed, leaving Doug behind. While she was gone, Jason entered the bathroom. Doug never had a chance. Jason smashed his skull against the shower wall, leaving his body crumpled in the shattered, blood-streaked glass. When Sarah returned, she was met with the horrific sight of Doug's corpse. Screaming, she fled into the living room, only to find the front door locked tight. She clawed at the knob and cried for help, but her escape ended in an instant. Jason struck from the other side, burying his axe straight through the door and into her chest. Wrapped only in a towel, Sarah collapsed, gasping for breath as her life drained away. Jason later moved her body elsewhere in the house, leaving it to be found by authorities after his rampage was over. Ralph Neely. Ralph had built a reputation as the town's resident doomsayer, wandering around camps, muttering, "You're all doomed," like it was his catchphrase. Hours after spooking Jeff and Sandra, he drifted over to Paul Holt's training center, where fate decided to remind him that prophets don't live long in slasher country.
You're all doomed.
While creeping around, Ralph caught sight of Paul and Ginny getting a little intimate in one of the cabins. But before he could play voyeur or issue yet another ignored warning, Jason Voorhees stepped in. Unlike the teenagers, Jason actually listened to Ralph and decided to shut him up permanently. Dragging him against a tree, Jason looped barbed wire around Ralph's neck and tightened until the old man's warnings turned into gasps. Moments later, Ralph went limp, his prophecy fulfilled at last. He was doomed too. Nikki Parsley. Nikki started off flaunting her spoiled rich kid vibes, chauffeuring campers before spending her weekend exactly how you'd expect, hooking up with Court in an RV while blasting Felony's "I'm No Animal." Real classy. Their fun got cut short when Jason unplugged the RV like an annoyed parent sick of the noise. Nikki, irritated, sent Court to fix it, only for them to find the cord had been stripped. Jason's version of no more screen time. Panicked, Nikki demanded Court drive her home, but his reckless speeding only tossed her around the RV like unwanted luggage. Just as she screamed at him to stop, Jason pulled her into the bathroom. The music drowned out her cries while he strangled her and smashed her face straight through the mirror, shoving it out the side of the RV. After Jason killed Court, the RV flipped and crashed, crushing Nikki's head completely. By the time police recovered her body, there wasn't much left to recover. Just another mangled reminder that Jason's road trips always end with a full stop. Jimbo Mortimer. Jimmy finally got his big win at Crystal Lake. After failing with Terry, he managed to charm Tina and proudly prove to his friends he wasn't the dead man Ted had joked about. Riding that rare wave of confidence, he strutted downstairs for a drink, clumsily hunting for a corkscrew. With all the pride of a guy who thinks he's untouchable, he shouted, "Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?" Jason Voorhees, ever the helpful host, provided the answer. The corkscrew went straight through Jimmy's hand, pinning him in place like a bad party trick. Before Jimmy could even process the irony, Jason followed up with a meat cleaver to the face. Celebration over. Jimmy's night of glory ended with him becoming just another stop on Jason's bloody highlight reel. Scott Chaney. When Paul Holt, Ginny Field, and the others headed into town for one last drink, Scott stayed behind with Terry. Never a smart move at Crystal Lake. After Terry went skinny dipping, Scott decided the funniest prank was holding her clothes hostage, returning them one piece at a time like some low-budget magician.
Give me my shirt, Scott.
His little joke ended the second he stepped into a snare trap and was yanked upside down, left flailing like a piñata waiting to be hit. Begging Terry to cut him down, he swore he'd retire from pranks forever. An empty promise, but fate was about to make sure he kept it. Before Terry returned with something sharp, Jason Voorhees emerged from the woods. With zero patience for pranksters, Jason grabbed Scott's head and sliced his throat with a machete. Minutes later, Terry came back to find her friend's body swinging lifelessly in the trees. Christopher Cruz. Mrs. Shepard eventually uncovered the spike in Dr. Cruz's desk, along with audio diaries proudly detailing how he'd been poking at Tina like some kind of science fair project. Enraged, she confronted him,
"You never intended to help her."
And the two traded threats until they realized Tina had stolen her mother's car and bolted. Chasing after her in Cruz's vehicle, they found the car wrecked on the roadside and searched the woods on foot. That's when Jason Voorhees showed up. In a masterclass of cowardice, Cruz shoved Mrs. Shepard in front of him like a human shield, getting her killed instantly. Cruz ran for his life, but Jason cornered him while holding a motorized branch saw. Without hesitation, Jason buried the spinning blade into his gut, tearing him open. Chewy Wong. Chewy wasn't exactly the MVP of Trent's Lake House weekend. After a few drinks and some bad jokes, Trent sent him to the shed for tools, a task Chewie immediately ignored in favor of raiding Mr. Sutton's secret beer stash and practicing for the NHL with a hockey stick. His practice session ended with him smashing a light fixture, setting the scene for what came next. In the middle of his solo comedy act, Chewie came face to hockey mask with Jason Voorhees. Still convinced that life was one big frat prank, he nervously offered Jason the stick, joking it would complete the outfit. Jason accepted the gift in his own way by beating the hell out of him. Chewie grabbed a screwdriver to defend himself, but the handyman routine didn't last long. Jason drove the tool up through his chin, slowly forcing it into his skull until Chewie's wisecracks went permanently silent. Sandra Casey. Sandra thought a midnight swim might spice up her camping trip. Stripping down, she dove into Crystal Lake, playfully calling out for Russell to join her. Too bad Russell had already gotten Jason's axe to the face. So much for romance. When Sandra resurfaced and saw her boyfriend's corpse slumped nearby, the fun officially ended. Her scream barely echoed before Jason, never one to waste time, yanked her down by the foot. She thrashed, but the lake did the rest. Sandra's sexy swim turned into her final plunge, dragged under by Jason and silenced beneath the water. Eva Watanabe. Eva's night went downhill the second she found Tamara Mason's corpse in the bathroom. Screaming, she fled into the hallway, only to run straight into Jason Voorhees. She tore down the stairs onto the party deck, spinning in circles like a drunk at prom as Jason kept popping up wherever she looked. Whether it was hallucination or Jason's weird teleporting party trick, Eva never stood a chance of keeping track. Finally, the real deal grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. She kicked, clawed, and flailed, but Jason squeezed the life right out of her before dropping her to the floor like discarded luggage. Charles McCulloch. After the group arrives in Manhattan, they're greeted not by Broadway lights, but by two gangbangers. Toby bolts like the smartest one in the group, while Rennie gets kidnapped. The rest split up looking for help, and one stumbles across an Irish cop willing to assist. Of course, by then, the gang has already pulled their vanishing act. Meanwhile, Julius is busy losing his head, literally, and Jason thoughtfully leaves it in the cop's car like some twisted dashboard ornament. As Jason closes in, the group tries to flee. Colleen's big escape plan ends with her becoming roadkill when the cop's car crashes. One poor survivor finally sees Jason up close, and suddenly all those crazy deckhand warnings don't sound so crazy anymore. He runs into a building hoping for safety, but Jason has other plans. Out the window he goes, proving gravity is the real final girl here, before Jason drowns him in a barrel of sewage. Talk about a New York welcome. Death by garbage water. Alexis Peterson. Alexis joined her friends Luke McCabe and Deborah Caldwell on a camping trip to Camp Crystal Lake in honor of Jason Voorhees' death. After hitching a ride with Stephen Freeman, she tried to flirt her way into a date by kissing him. Shockingly, he passed. Apparently, want a camp where dozens of people were slaughtered? Isn't the world's best pickup line. Later, Alexis proved she was a good friend by giving up the tent so Luke and Deborah could, well, make campfire noises of their own. That left her stuck outside in a sleeping bag, playing third wheel to the forest. Eventually, she wandered off to pee in the bushes. On her way back, Alexis thought she heard something in the woods. And she was right. Unfortunately, it wasn't a squirrel. Phil Jason lunged out of the darkness and slashed her apart with a scalpel. Romantic camping trip denied. Alexis ended up with the sharpest breakup imaginable. Chili Jackson. While making popcorn in the kitchen, Chili jumped when Shelly stumbled in, throat slashed and barely standing. Of course, she assumed it was just another one of his hilarious pranks.
Stop fooling around, man!
And basically told him to quit the act, unknowingly watching him bleed out in real time. Comedy legend. Right there. Meanwhile, Chuck was downstairs getting turned into human toast courtesy of the fuse box, leaving the house in darkness. That's when it clicked for Chili. Shelly wasn't joking, and the punchline was on her. Panicking, she sprinted upstairs, shrieking for Andy and Debbie, only to find their corpses instead. She bolted back down the stairs crying until Jason Voorhees emerged from the shadows like the world's worst stagehand. One heated fireplace poker later, Chili was kebabbed straight through the stomach. Her blood hissed on the red-hot metal as Jason let her collapse. Just another body tossed into the chaos. Turns out the popcorn wasn't the only thing getting cooked that night. Charlie Linderman. Linderman and the gang hatched a genius plan. Drag Jason Voorhees' comatose corpse back to Camp Crystal Lake. Meanwhile, Lori would yank Freddy Krueger into the real world so the two monsters could kill each other while the teens cheered from the sidelines. What could possibly go wrong? On the ride over, Jason had a seizure courtesy of Freddy in Dreamland. The group scrambled to revive him, and Linderman, ever the asthmatic hero, wasn't exactly the best candidate for CPR. Jason solved the problem himself by waking up, which startled Linderman into firing his gun through the windshield, nearly killing the driver instead of the killer. The van flipped, Jason got tossed out, and the kids got a breather measured in seconds. At the camp, Jason went straight for Will and Kia. Linderman grabbed a flagpole like a wannabe musketeer and jabbed it into Jason's chest. Jason barely noticed and sent him flying into a wall bracket, impaling him like a pinned butterfly. Kaya dragged him outside, and Linderman bravely declared it was just a scratch. Once she left, he slumped against a tree, quietly bleeding out. His big, heroic stand ending as a polite exit, with Jason never even breaking stride.